Likewise. My friends are waiting for me. Let's chat more next time, Wang Jung replied cheerfully. Reddington glowered until Wang Jung left. He had not raged only because Tempest was present. He did not believe Wang Jung had that kind of privilege, but had no idea how he had weaseled his way in. Watching Wang Jung's figure in the distance, Tempest gave a rare smile, and turned back to survey the other four. Looks like we can't underestimate the Huang grade students this year. Tempest, don't listen to that guy. His physical skills are strong, but his ability X evaluation is weak. If not, he would not be in Huang Class 7. Ling Luoyu said. Tempest shook his head. Luoyu, to someone who can place on the battle power rankings, ability X is already inconsequential. Saying thus, Tempest left. Luoyu and the rest were stunned. Battle power rankings? How was that possible? Even they did not qualify. The entire Zon grade in the academy only had 2 or 3 capable of entering the rankings. Ling Luoyu and Ai Xiaolu looked at each other, affirming the mutual shock and disbelief. Reddington and Diallo's reactions were even more different. In an instant, they felt slighted, their egos crushed. Tempest's meaning was clear. He and Wang Jung were on a different level. Ling Luoyu was a little unsettled. She began to feel a little impulsive for the first time. Grandfather had understood her well, and would not have introduced just anybody. Ai Xiaolu had an excited look about her. She had been undecided about something before, but now she could act with confidence. A business had to be profitable, just whether it realized gains in the short term or far in the future. It seemed like this news must be conveyed to Snow Lee. She would definitely be happy. For a Huang grade student to enter the battle power rankings was startling news. That Tempest knew was no surprise. After all, he was also on the battle power rankings, and his position was definitely higher than Wang Jung's. It was a pity that a lack of ability X was Wang Jung's flaw. If he had been more balanced, Wang Jung's future would have been immeasurably bright. Wang Jung's growth till now was not bad by any means, but if his ability X could not be improved, his development would be limited from now on. But according to Snow Lee, his ability X was not very weak. Ai Xiaolu was shocked. Could it be? To enter Elite Academy X, the minimum requirement was a C-grade ability X regardless of how poor one's mastery was. Anyone capable of achieving a C-grade was no ordinary person. And Wang Jung had not even used his ability X. Just how formidable was this guy? Wang Jung met up with Zhang Shan and Ollie. Zhang Shan was a wilted shape. He must have been beaten up by Ollie, poor guy. Wang Jung gave Zhang Shan a few understanding pats. All shoots mature under the torrents of wind and rain. Zhang Shan rolled his eyes in annoyance. If he could not beat her, that could not be helped. This girl was cruel in her fighting. As the three were preparing to leave, Ai Xiaolu came running over, looking at Wang Jung with a wide smile. Wang Jung, shall we talk privately? Wang Jung was taken aback, but nodded. Zhang Shan, Ollie, go ahead without me. I'll talk to her. Normally, Zhang Shan would raise an eyebrow and a few protests, but in his miserable state he was in no mood at all. He could not beat Wang Jung, and now he had been plucked by a little flower. This was a disgrace. Actually, Wang Jung had wanted to talk to Ai Xiaolu as well, just that he found it embarrassing to broach the matter. But since she had actively sought him out, he would muster his courage and try, if the situation arose. He had no choice. After all, he had promised Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei was one who cared a lot about her dignity. She would never debase herself to ask others for a favor. She was the kind who would rather break than bend. In the training arena's recess room, Wang Jung and Ai Xiaolu found a corner, and took a cup of water each. Ai Xiaolu sized him up, smiling widely. What do you think I'm about to talk about? Wang Jung rubbed his nose. He hated it when girls said, guess, because he could never guess it. King's situation doesn't seem too good. Ai Xiaolu got straight to the point. Knowing Wang Jung for a while, she knew he was a straightforward person. There was no point beating around the bush. Wang Jung nodded suspiciously. How did you know that? Ai Xiaolu smiled. You think of me as a foolish and rich type? Since I've invested, naturally I keep tabs on the company's status. King's experiments have met with failure recently, and my invested capital is half gone. Personality-wise, I have quite a lot of respect for Professor Xiao Fei, but business-wise, she's a failure. Wang Jun smiled painfully. On this point, he wholeheartedly agreed, although he also empathized with Xiao Fei. Research was inextricably linked to money, but working for that alone was meaningless, especially for the space program. This is one of our biggest worries at present. I won't hide that the research has definitely encountered difficulties. From a business perspective, hedging a little was always better, but Wang Jun could not bring himself to do it. He at least acknowledged the risk. The current odds of success are half and half, although the invested sum into this program is indeed significant. But rest assured that we have not given up. We'll continue to look for finances to continue investing. Ai Xiaolu smiled. Do you still have options? Wang Jun was taken aback. Ai Xiaolu took a drink of water, her eyes lit with a strange excitement. Frankly speaking, I'm interested in the program. Its future returns are very high, although the risks are equally high. It seems worth gambling on. As I understand it, King Company is strapped for cash, and all its possible loan options are practically exhausted. Even smaller loans are out of the question. Wang Jun was deflated. Ai Xiaolu spoke the truth, but he was not in despair. Wang Jun had a final ace up his sleeve, but he would not use it if he did not have to. As the major shareholder in King Company, do you have a plan? Ai Xiaolu asked. As a creditor, Ai Xiaolu indeed had the right to research King Company thoroughly, although she had not expected to find that Wang Jun was the biggest shareholder. To find out that he was the inventor of the space theory was something she would never have dreamed of. For such a scientific genius to also be a super soldier was peerless. Indeed, times are hard. Xiaolu, you looked for me today not to put me in a tight spot, right? Wang Jun smiled. And I don't think you're looking to call the debt either. Ai Xiaolu did not think that Wang Jun would respond so quickly. This person looked foolish, but was actually pretty sharp. If, say, our Ai Shi group invested heavily in this program, would you be very, very happy? Ai Xiaolu smiled. Wang Jun was not too surprised. What are your terms? At this stage, it was definitely not something that a personal connection could have brought about. The other party must be looking for some benefit, and the terms would be fairly substantial. The way Wang Jun saw it, they must be after his shares. What do you think? Ai Xiaolu smiled slightly. Suddenly she felt that speaking to this mysterious guy was pretty interesting. My stocks, I find that reasonable. Wang Jun mulled over it for a while. He had to make concessions if the program was to succeed and his shares to be worth something. And such a request was natural for the other party as well. Ai Xiaolu shook her head with a smile. If it was anybody else I spoke to, that would be the case, and then perhaps I would not even extend this offer. But since it's you, I don't want stocks. Wang Jun was shocked, and waved a hand irritably. Besides stocks I have little value. It seems like I don't have anything else valuable, and I couldn't even get much if I sold my body. Ai Xiaolu could not help laughing. Oh if you really wanted to sell your body, I'm sure the takers would be queuing out the door. All right. No more jokes. I value our relationship highly. Of course, I mean that between schoolmates, it's lucky that we could meet here despite the different worlds we live in. Therefore, the Ai Shi Group's condition is not your shares. Besides, your contribution to this program has been the most. But in business there must be reciprocation. The future investment will not be my own. I am just part of a family, and a very small one at that. Wang Jun nodded. He had an idea of what she was getting at, but was not sure. You mean, something related to the supergravity energy ore? Bingo. Really a smart boy. When researching King, I found something strange. You actually managed to get your hands on the supergravity energy ore. Only a few big countries like Arbiter have priority, and many others are waiting for it. Yet a faraway company like King on Earth is getting it even before Arbiter. What do you say is the reason? The same privilege would be a completely different notion in the hands of a company and a financial group. In truth, the space program was becoming a flop. Ai Xiaolu had persuaded her family on the basis of the supergravity energy ore. If the Ai Shi group could control this, then their influence and position in the Hail Cloud Alliance would rise greatly. This was something that money could not buy. It was about political influence. Just imagine, a problem that nations worried about, solved by a family. How amazing that would be. Can you be more specific? Wang Jun asked. Ai Xiaolu nodded. We can continue investing another 50 billion in 3 phases. But in this period, King Company must give half of their super gravity energy ore allocation to the Aishi Group. And if the company goes bankrupt in the end, the Aishi Group wants King Company's ore buying permit. Wang Jung did not know how to explain. In truth, King Company did not have any buying permits. They had secured it on his word alone. If King Company went bankrupt, then there would be no meaning for him as well. He did not study finance. Although he did not regard himself as completely inept, but he had not realized that the supergravity energy ore had such huge implications. Xiaolu, I can vouch for the first condition, but the supergravity energy ore purchase is a little complicated. If King Company runs into difficulties, you might not be able to get your hands on it. Wang Jung warned. He laid out the ugly side first, also in a bid to get to what Ai Xiaolu truly wanted. Ai Xiaolu rested her chin on her fair hands, sizing him up. However you look at it, you don't look like a wastrel. Anybody else might have tried to fool me. You're good, to lay it out preemptively. Anybody else might not be in such dire straits now. Wang Jung chuckled. Ai Xiaolu was not expecting that smile, one that was so comfortable in his own skin. She was born in a financial empire, surrounded by money. Interpersonal relationships were formed only on the basis of money. And people like that, above all, longed for something trustworthy that was free of all deceit. To her, money was not the issue. The goal was. Alright, since you say that, let's get right to it. As for me, I've taken a liking to you. That's why I asked my family to do this in the first place. As for the rest, I'll take care of it. As you said, even if we don't get the buying permit in the end, we're all right. If we really get it, of course we'll be overjoyed. Such a thing is invaluable. If we can just get half the supergravity energy ore, it will be enough for the family to get some things done, Ai Xiaolu said. Wang Jung laughed. Oh, it's my first time to be so favored. I'm honored. It's settled then. King Company's share is mainly for experiments, so it's modest, and sharing half will not be an issue. As for the buying permit issue, if we really go broke, I'll do my best to protect it, so you don't come off too badly. Alright, it's a deal. Ai Xiaolu stretched out a hand, and Wang Jung did likewise. Ai Xiaolu's hand was soft and warm. Ai Xiaolu reviewed all the information she had. The more she knew, the more she found Wang Jung frightening. Whether his individual ability or his strange connections, Ai Xiaolu did not think that she would come off this deal any worse. As for the family, money left there was money wasted. Each year, there were investments to be made to protect the worth of their fortune. There would be gains and losses. Although the experimental use supergravity ore was not much, but it was enough to get the elders at her family to agree. More importantly, countries wanted it for experiments as well. It was rumored that Arbiter had achieved good results, and this had made other nations even more frantic. Of course, the least anxious was Tita Star. They were taking their time to build, and not particularly driving the mining process. Under the pretext of protecting the resource, they were simply increasing the price. Once mined, the export was controlled. The ore was, after all, unique, and it was a seller's market, where the strong countries came out next best. The other countries could only endure, dissatisfied. Most unlucky was Aslan. They had been slated for priority until they had offended Tita Star somehow and struck off the list, giving the lead to those like Arbiter and Manalasuo. And, Wang Jung, after spending half a year on Tita Star, what had happened in that period? Ai Xiaolu definitely believed that there must be some connection. This was a guy full of secrets and opaque, but also with depths to plunge. Almost like a storybook character, where the more that was revealed, the more one grew to like the protagonist. But she had no intention of sharing this with others. Senior Xiaolu, if you keep staring at me like that, I'll be embarrassed. Wang Jung rubbed his nose. Haha, I would never have known you were the shy type. That's right, do you like Snowly? She's very fond of you. Do you want me to help you two arrange something? Ai Xiaolu teased. Wang Jung was exasperated. Let things take their course. I've just fallen out of love, and I'm not back together yet. I just want to focus on training. Flowers should be plucked before they wither. Snowly is a hot customer. You don't have to worry about the rest. I'll send someone to arrange the terms with King Company. We won't be too picky about the details. Since it's seen you're taking care of things, I'm naturally at ease. Those who had true business acumen invested in people, not programs. The right backing would see a thousand-fold return. From a different perspective, how bad could someone that Snowly liked, and Olivius took note of, be? Even Tempest had taken an interest to Wang Jung, and she was looking forward to how things would turn out. It was possible that Wang Jung might pull a miracle and carve his own place in the top 5. If that was the case, her investment return time would definitely shorten drastically. Parting ways with Ai Xiaolu, Wang Jung left a message for Xiao Fei and Marcus. This was definitely good news. The earlier they knew, the faster they would be relieved of the stress. The moment he finished relaying the news, Marcus immediately revived. He was quite excited. He was not as unemotional as Xiao Fei. He had to take care of the whole team, and this news would be a welcome relief that gave them peace of mind when working. Not everybody could endure so much. Besides, everybody had families, and he could not always leave them hanging. Xiao Fei did not say much, but that was part of their dynamic. The two did not need niceties between them to communicate. They just had that special connection. Although King Company's research did not need too much supergravity ore, but Wang Jung still wanted to secure this aspect. He would ask Tita Star to export the other half. After all, the current state of Tita Star was the result of Wang Jung and Mu Sen's agreements. Sometimes the best way forward was suspense, but at others, the most straightforward methods were best. But rules should not be too easily broken. King Company could not be too outstanding in this matter, or they would find themselves pitted against the other nations. They must find a balance, and find a happy medium. Tempest's return this time was indeed for the competition. Of course, the competition itself did not hold much meaning. Given his standard, he no longer needed to prove anything in battle. But the clashes in this period had made him clearly realize that if he wanted to display his strength in the abyss, and shrug off the chains of fate, he needed his own runic mech. He wanted to enter the Earthgrade as quickly as possible, but Tempest knew that he needed to bide his time. At present, he was not too confident, although he had to try regardless. Very few passed in one try. As long as one could eventually ascend, that would be fine. If he could obtain a runic mech, that would provide more chances for him, so it was a necessity. Of course, others were in the same position. He felt that this competition had been arranged especially for the few of them. In this period, they had seen much as well. Whether in body or spirit, they had accrued considerable ability, and to test this accumulation through battle was not a bad way at all. But after seeing Wang Jung, Tempest knew that it would not be so easy. The academy would not have set such a big stage just for the few of them. They were only part of the reason. Wang Jung and Olivius, two newcomers, but already on the X leaderboards, battle power rankings, they were definitely part of the reason too. Elite Academy X and Milky Way Military College had a long history of cooperation, but rivalry existed between all schools. This was a high-level matter. His level was still far from satisfactory, but Princess Aina's participation had given new meaning. She, alone, represented both the stance of Aslan and Atlantis. Perhaps there was more to this, and the competition had been organized for her benefit. Aslan led the Milky Way in terms of technological advancements. This was on the overall, but of course in terms of battle power, those like Arbiter and Manalasuo stood on the same level. A soldier that did not want to become general was not a good soldier, but to become general, one needed a head for the larger picture and a sense for rule. An acute observation of the circumstances in order to act. Since Aina was coming, then the elite of both schools would definitely be attending. It was undoubtedly a good opportunity to make an impression. Such thoughts were definitely not unique to Tempest. Therefore, battles which might have not been as intense might intensify because of these external reasons. He had to prepare well also. To the higher-ups, this was a good time for a review. Tempest had no curiosity towards people like Aina. They were far out of his reach. These were the elite who stood at the peak of humanity from the moment they were born. They were human, but lived different lives. The corner of Tempest's mouth raised in a quirk. His fingertips danced with light. His ability X was utterly unique. He would love to see who could stop him. Every fighter had ambitions of being the best in the world. Since things were about to get heated, he would take it on. In the next few days, Wang Zheng and the rest found their days incomparably filled. Besides class, Wang Zheng still had to bring Zhang Shan and Ollie to train. Wang Zheng had developed quite a comprehensive understanding of Oli's heavenly overlord style, which incorporated the control of some chi manipulation methods to be able to achieve its explosiveness. Of course, this was a secret, and Wang Zheng would not pry. But at his level, he more or less gleaned a little. He refined Oli's fighting style to make her attacks even more on point. She was not a brawler type, but an assassin type. It had taken some effort to cure her of her brave notions. Zhang Shan was making progress as well, although he still could not beat Oli. But it was a start. How far he could go would depend on himself. Zhang Shan and Oli had finally been selected for the examination, and had gone to take it, although Wang Zheng had taken the Zon grade exam, but it was still applicable, saving him some time. He had thought it strange. If every Huang grade student was at that level, then the Elite Academy X would be a frightening place indeed. Wang Zheng also found time to go to Butcher's place. You could film a horror movie inside without having to get any external props. But this time round, Wang Zheng met an old friend coincidentally. Butcher was surprised too. He had thought that Xie Yuxin was person from Aslan. Who would have known he was from Earth? But Xie Yuxin did not act one bit like an Earthling. That you two know each other is even better. The samples this time are promising. These insects have mutated and seem to possess some powers of mind control. Quite dangerous. A live Zerg was kept in the laboratory. This Zerg resembled a spider, but it had 12 claws. In the middle, a round brain was covered in wrinkles, and looked like a lump of meat. At first glance, it did not seem like it was capable of any strong physical attack, but when this Zerg raged, the meatball turned a blood-red color, and released a ear-splitting cry directly into the human brain, creating huge problems for fighters. Only Xie Yuxin and Wang Zheng were not of the Vermilion Bird region. Xie Yuxin was classified under special powers, and had their own education. They were slightly different. Since entering the academy, Xie Yuxin had been busier than Wang Zheng. Others were busy watching the waves on the equipment. They had reached a curious observation. This insect actually had brainwaves that were close to humans, but stronger in strength. The insect's evolutionary ability had always been a research topic for humankind, especially the abyss insects. They were not just normal scary. If they appeared on a large scale, humanity would be unable to repel them. Luckily, they did not leave the abyss, and were simply an excellent research material for humanity. It was also Butcher's first time seeing such insects. We had to activate 2 teams to catch him. It's dangerous for those with a weak mind to approach it. A worker had sustained a direct hit from it, and almost had his mind fatally shattered. Xie Yuxin was always laid back, only becoming excited at such research. He had moved in a completely different direction, but he had not thought Wang Zheng would be able to freely access such a place, and to be on such familiar terms with Butcher. This Zerg is excellent material for us. Through it, we could find the evolutionary gene. Although this Zerg is a mutation, but it's obvious that its previous stage may have been a spider Zerg. But through some developmental process, it became what we see now. At the same time that we are researching them and learning, the insects are studying us too, Xie Yuxin said. Yuxin, do you mean that the insects have some sort of plan? A tall girl asked. Vermilion Bird region, from Aslan. It was clear this slightly haughty girl treated Xie Yuxin very well. Senior Millie, that was my reaction when I first saw it, but I find it curious. From the information we currently have, the abyss insects are much stronger than us. Evolution is a process that naturally selects the strong over the weak. Don't you all find this strange? Xie Yuxin asked. Everybody thought over this for a while. Humans that fought in the abyss triumphed through numbers. In that space, it was difficult for insects to enter. Where their true base was, nobody had ever uncovered, or dared to wander too deep. Wang Zheng looked at the insect. The cage was surrounded by a force field which could disrupt the insect's mental attacks. But when Wang Zheng looked at it, the insect seemed to understand him. It faced Wang Zheng, although it had no eyes. In that instant, Wang Zheng could feel a strong signal emitting from the insect, but he did not understand its meaning. But the workers were shocked, because the insect's energy waves was peaking since the time they had captured it. Wang Jung was a little puzzled, but a question suddenly came to him. Senior Butcher, I have a conjecture. To these abyss zergs, I think their biggest worry is not us, but the abyss. Wang Jung said. Nobody reacted for a moment, but after a few moments, their faces changed. You mean to say they wish to come out? Exactly. Whether it is our insects or the abyss variety, expansion and destruction is in their nature. We can enter freely, but the insects can't. Given their capabilities, that would definitely be their goal. That they have mutated this way is not because our ability is stronger, but it's simply to find the reason why they cannot escape. Wang Jung said. This was bold imagination. Nobody would have thought this way, but Wang Jung felt this was common sense. He had heard Charcoal mention it in his ramblings. In some lost history, there had been cases where the Zerg had evolved to be like humans, although the truth was no longer verifiable. Butcher's expression became grave, because he had just realized this point as well. He looked over at the insect, which was in a frenzy at the moment. The sensors gave out warning sounds. In just 3 or 4 seconds, the insect suddenly exploded into meat paste. Everybody glanced around. A sinister air filled the laboratory. Butcher sighed deeply. Everybody, please do not disseminate this point of view. I will bring it to my superiors, and we will think of how to handle this. But based on what we know, even if the insects were so capable, such a feat will not be easy. In other words, if they really evolved in this way, their resulting power would not be too strong. There are too many possible variations. But Butcher still left hurriedly. Clearly, this matter was of momentous importance. Humans had learned much from the abyss, but a small slip-up could lead to disaster. The experimental subject had become pulp, and it was apparent that everybody could only head back. It was a rare chance that Wang Jung and Xie Yuxin could meet, only there was an unwanted lightbulb, that Millie girl. As they walked out, Millie was waiting for Xie Yuxin. Xie Yuxin smiled slightly. Wang Jung, let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Senior Millie. Wang Jung was surprised, then guffawed. You sure hide it well. Hello, Senior. Millie glared at Xie Yuxin. Can't you drop the senior already? Xie Yuxin smiled mildly, unconcerned. But Wang Jung laughed. Not bad, not bad. Senior, this little guy doesn't show it much, but he's nice at heart. Scram. Even the composure of Xie Yuxin could not stand Wang Jung's jibes. Haha, see? The truth revealed. Senior, if you have anything you want to know, just ask me. Nobody here knows him better than I do. Wang Jung laughed. Wang Jung, you better watch what you say. Xie Yuxin had been unlucky in making friends. He did not know which nerve had grown wrongly back then, to have made friends with Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoxiu. But any girl would definitely be very interested in their boyfriend's past, especially past loves. But it was clear that Xie Yuxin was the distant type. Although such people were popular in adolescence, but they were not as well informed. Yan Xiaoxiu had always said it was a waste of talent. If it had been him, he would have found 10 or 20 girlfriends. One a day, a different type every week. Based on what you just said, it seems the two of you have vastly different personalities. How would you two have become fast friends? Millie was not too fond of Wang Jung's personality. The way she saw it, Xie Yuxin and Wang Jung were two completely different people. But she had been the mature one. When she knew that Wang Jung was Xie Yuxin's good friend, she had been very courteous. This was basic courtesy, but it did not equate to her approval. Xie Yuxin shrugged. I was tricked. Millie could not help smiling. Xie Yuxin had his humorous moments. It made him easy to like. The three found a resting place, chatting over drinks. Right, how are Achilles and the rest doing? I haven't heard from them in a while, Wang Jung asked. Achilles, Vermilion Bird Zon grade class 1, but low profile. Not much news. Really, we haven't been interacting much. You know me, Xie Yuxin said. But they're definitely competing this time round. And they already passed the qualification test. Lai Xin's joining as well. It seems like you have a talent for scaring those around you into running away. Wang Jung laughed. Don't make me out to be destined to being alone. Huang grade people are just there to play. Don't be too serious. Millie could not resist saying, she was Zon grade, and from Zon class 1 at that. She could not curb her haughtiness, especially knowing that Wang Jung was from Huang class 7. Wang Jung and Xie Yuxin just exchanged a knowing smile. Neither offered an explanation. Somebody else might have stood up to sing Wang Jung's praises, but Xie Yuxin was not that kind of person. He did not mind these things. Gold would always gleam no matter where it went. It was just a matter of time. And since that was inevitable, why bother explaining? But their smiles left Millie unhappy. Students Yuxin and Wang Jung, I'm saying this for your own good. The competition is a real battle. Getting wounded is normal. If you're not careful, your studies could be affected. That's why you need to be prudent and not brash. Millie said. Although the words were not pleasant, but there was some good intentions in it. Besides, Xie Yuxin did not need to participate. Truly, support types like them were pretty well off. They got respect, but did not need to enter these competitions. Although Xie Yuxin was not afraid of battles either. Seeing Millie pouting, Xie Yuxin smiled mollifyingly. Don't worry about him, this guy is a roach. Roach? What's that? It's a creature with super high survivability. It's a distant relative of a Zerg. Piss off. You are the Zerg's relative. Wang Jung spit. This guy's tongue became especially smooth when insulting Wang Jung. Xie Yuxin quickly recovered, his mouth smirking in a superior manner. Wang Jung was annoyed. Verbal battles were a lost cause against Xie Yuxin. This guy always had a way to make you feel like you did not have a way. Xie Yuxin was a natural narcissist. Wang Jung, Senior Mill's reminder is timely. I know you're confident, but this is Elite Academy. As I know, the 4 experts of the Zon grade have all returned. The runic mech is very important to them. What's left for the rest is just a quota. Xie Yuxin had hit the nail on the head. At one side, Millie did not know whether to laugh or cry. These two guys were so serious in their act. One had to know that the Zon grade itself counted for much. Besides the 4 experts who were near the Earth grade, the rest were not weaklings themselves. If it had been just reputation at stake, there would not have been that much interest. But since a specialized mech was at stake, they could not back down easily. Oh, there's someone called Tempest. Is he one of the 4? Wang Jung asked. Yup, Tempest is the #1 in Azure Dragon region. His ability X is unbridled creation, Millie said. Wang Jung and Xie Yuxin were both stunned. Wang Jung smiled. Sounds very mystical, interesting. Seems like you've met him before? Xie Yuxin asked. Not really met him, a chance encounter is all, Wang Jung said, spinning his cup absently. Creation power. Amongst the cycle of the 5 minor elements, it should be Earth. But it was definitely part of the cycle of 5 major elements. It was just that they had no idea what degree his creation ability could reach. Oh, what do you think are the odds? Without having faced off for real, it's 50-50 against anybody. Wang Jung was rather sanguine. His understanding of battle was very different from others. A normal clash and a life and death battle was very different, and any battle came with risk. 50-50? His tone could be nothing but reckless arrogance. If it was not for the fact that he was her boyfriend's good friend, Millie could not have held back a more scathing reply, although her disdain showed on her expression. In terms of hiding one's emotions, Xie Yuxin was a genius. Unless one knew him very well, one would not be able to see his true emotional response. He was too intellectual and philosophical, and Wang Jung thought he did look the part. Millie, I've known Wang Jung for a very long time. Do you know what his biggest weakness is? Xie Yuxin asked. Millie was surprised. She understood that for Xie Yuxin to have dropped the senior honorific meant that he was still aware of her attitude. Wang Jung's greatest flaw is his humility. If he says 50-50, then it's more like 60 or 70, no matter the opponent's reputation. Millie was stunned, because she knew that Xie Yuxin did not brag. His intellect was phenomenal, although she liked such types. Sorry, Wang Jung, I apologize for my attitude. Perhaps I have been ignorant to the ways of the world. Wang Jung was amused. Don't be lured in by his tricks. He's just acting all righteous because he's bored. It's all a bluff. The best way to deal with him is to do the same back to him, and do your own thing. That was how Yan Xiaoshu and I dealt with him back then. Then you'll see the real side of him. With that verbal barrage, Xie Yuxin crumbled. There was just no talking to this guy. Seeing her boyfriend wilt, Millie laughed. Tisk tisk. Our Yushin has such cute moments. I've gained so much today. As a senior, I guess I should at least make a gesture. Wang Jung, do you have a girlfriend? Wang Jung could not help rubbing his nose. Why were all girls so inexplicably nosy and interested in such private matters? I'm not too sure myself, actually. Wang Jung was speaking honestly. Although he and Aina had broken up in name, but their feelings were clearly still present. And he had yet to sort his feelings out regarding Meng Tian. No need for introductions. This guy's the best at attracting girls, Xie Yushin said exasperatedly. On the whole, Xie Yushin had already elevated Wang Jung to a high pedestal, but Millie still could not shake off her doubt. The guy in front of her was not particularly tall or handsome. The hunks were aplenty on Aslan. Ability, yet unseen. Although his manner was not detestable, and he had some humor, but on the whole unremarkable. Besides, he was an earthling, and from Huang Class 7. Even if she was truly looking to help with introductions, it would be a tough find. But Millie did not dwell too much on it. Hearing Wang Jung and Xie Yushin bicker about the past was enjoyable enough. And Wang Jung got to know Millie better as well. Millie was from an influential family on Aslan, and had awakened her ability X at a precocious young age. It had been love at first sight with Xie Yushin, and she had been the one chasing him. That was not too surprising. Given Xie Yushin's moderate nature, he definitely needed the comforts of a mature older woman. The three chatted for a long time. Time flew, and on the way back, Wang Jung was in a good mood. Times were changing. Even that Xie Yushin had a girlfriend now. Back then, he and Yan Xiaoshu were secretly wondering if that guy was gay. Everyone had changed a lot, but personality and friendships seemed pretty constant. He indeed had to prioritize some things now. Everybody held the runic mech in high regard, so it did seem to be very useful. Even Butcher had mentioned it to him. If it was possible, it was best to have it. Such new super mecha stood at the pinnacle of mankind's technological prowess. Butcher would not fire off or exaggerate needlessly. Besides, the quota was limited, and it was definitely a first-come, first-served situation. Even as Wang Jung was preparing in all seriousness, everyone else was too. Achilles and the rest were no fools. In IG, they had fully witnessed the terror that Wang Jung could be. Perhaps others simply saw the idea of it. But Achilles, formerly hailed as the first in the solar system, saw deeper. As a teammate, he could clearly sense the others' growth and evolution in fine detail. Vermilion Bird Region. At such academies ruled by strong countries like Aslan and Manalasuo, Earthlings were completely second fiddle. And ever since their arrival, Achilles and Lai Xin had not stood out either, keeping their heads down and applying themselves seriously to the lessons, just like others from more modest places. From the moon, it had been Achilles and Milo who had eventually passed the examination and come to Elite Academy X, although the two had not really made networks and connected with others. Achilles and Milo both had clear thought processes. Given the current situation, offering themselves to others would meet with little favor, and in fact they would be slighted more. Besides, given Achilles' pride, he would not do such a thing. Rather than blindly fawn, they would rather suffer in silence, and Achilles and Milo both enjoyed it. It felt good to have some pressure and worthy opponents. Their glamour back on the moon had been inhibitive. Here, free from attention, they could apply themselves to their studies with more focus. This was a valuable time and opportunity, and Lai Xin and Lai Guang's arrival had made this point even clearer. There were no eternal enemies, only eternal benefits. Besides, Achilles and Lai Xin were not enemies at all. In such a huge, pressurized environment, their cooperation became even more meaningful. At this moment, Lai Xin and Achilles were duking it out heatedly, while Milo and Lai Guang watched on. Ever since entering the Elite Academy, Achilles and Lai Xin's improvement could be considered inhuman. It was unprecedented. Of course, they understood that such improvement stemmed from their cultivation techniques. Although they had made progress in the realm of cultivation, but there was nothing too unbelievable, simply a marked improvement in the results. And Elite Academy X had provided them the circumstances necessary to achieve this elevation process. Achilles' Heavenly King art was balanced across all 5 affinities. Lai Xin's Lai Flame technique was the ultimate amongst those of the fire affinity. The ferocious attack power made Lai Xin like a goddess of fire with a terrifying capacity for destruction. Although the soundproofing in the training room was not bad, but the explosive impacts could still be heard. In the venue, Milo and Lai Guang were watching intently. Improving their dueling was undoubtedly important. If both parties had cultivation techniques, then the meaning of dueling was heightened. On this point, Achilles and Lai Xin's feelings were clear. Their arts saw improvement daily. As for the chi breathing technique of the Elite Academy, that was too easy to them. Both had been from Academy X, and absorbed the lessons of Elite Academy without difficulty. Perhaps other countries had a definite advantage here, but once the results of the cultivation techniques started to make themselves seem, such a difference rapidly shrunk, and even turned the opposite way. Confidence came from training and the improvements in ability. Achilles and Lai Xin were the same. Those of the solar system were peerless on one point. No matter the circumstances, they always felt a sense of superiority, even if they faced taunts. After all, the solar system had once been humanity's center and all it encompassed. The smoother assimilation of cultivation techniques with the world was a psychological hint, and to these geniuses, such a hint could achieve many things. After one round, both were pouring with sweat. Lai Guang and Milo immediately headed over with water. They had all signed up for the competition too. Is Wang Zheng still in Huang Class 7? Lai Xin asked alongside a gulp of water. That guy just doesn't care about these things. I doubt he's even thought of changing, but he'll definitely participate in this competition. Lai Guang laughed. This is a chance. We won't let him take the lead. Milo said. I analyzed the past battles. Wang Zheng's biggest advantage is his physical techniques, but his ability X has seen no improvement. His problem is that he has been too obsessed with the physical body, which will limit his potential. Whereas once we catch up physically, although overtaking seems impossible for now, but as this advantage diminishes, the chances of victory will increase. Milo was excellent at analysis. Although they were supposed to be on the same side, but Achilles and Lai Xin unequivocally saw Wang Zheng as their main rival. Although they might not meet in the main competition, but such a comparison always remained. It was also a source of motivation. I've understood his latest developments. He's still using the same tricks, but I have to say those are some good tricks. Lai Guang shook his head. He was referring to Wang Zheng's mecha performance in mecha class. News had spread quickly. Of course, those that were unconcerned remained unconcerned, but those that were concerned had to pay attention. Honestly, it seemed he had no new tricks. It had been a while since they came to Elite Academy X. If Wang Zheng had no improvement, then he was regressing. Although Achilles and Lai Xin had not made any name for themselves, but they had seen huge improvements in their abilities. This was all thanks to Wang Zheng, who had shattered their arrogance, and allowed them to put aside their titles to peacefully focus on their own things. Achilles gave an easy smile. Don't underestimate the opponent. We neither have the opportunity nor the qualifications to do so. If even we can identify this problem, it's inconceivable that Wang Zheng does not know it himself. If it was a matter of seeking fame at Elite Academy, that would be no problem. But Wang Zheng is not so shallow. Lai Xin nodded. That's true, but to solve the problem is not so easy. Wang Zheng lacks the experience from Academy X. His foundations are not there. And the later one is awakened into the ability X. There is an imbalance between the mind and body. This is also undeniable. We need to give respect, but there's also no need to be unduly humble. On this, Achilles agreed. What about that guy Lear? Him? Nothing much heard. Didn't he go to Black Tortoise region? And that wretched fatty. Although given his personality he can go far anywhere. Lai Guang said with a shrug. To the average person, plotting and dealing with intricacies was a tiring matter, but to Lear it was as easy as breathing. It was a game to him. He was really different from others. Just that similarly, as the heir of the Kronos family, what they felt was definitely understood by Lear as well. The mecha competition this time round was definitely a big stage, but it remained to be seen who it was actually being held for. Clearly, their guesses were entirely correct. Lear was definitely in a good spot, and not just any run-of-the-mill good spot. Using the Shadow Group's resources, he had attained the complete Ares art. Although it was within Saint, but he already had half. Although the other half was completely locked in Saint, but the results as Testament, Having prior experience was a great help to Lear. The results were apparent. Such a complete martial art was completely unique in the world of saints. Besides the Ares art, he had obtained the complete Lai Flame technique as well. Although it was not much use to him, but it meant that Lai Xin could not get her hands on it. That Lai Xin had chosen Achilles had clarified her stand. If she had come to Black Tortoise region, Lear could have given her so much help. A pity that some could not see the future in their direction clearly. Fatty was still resentful, being dragged around like a rabbit. Lear had forced him to enter the competition, although he did not want to. Fighting with a bunch of Zon grades was boring. It was tiring and saw no benefits. He had no interest in the runic mech, he just wanted to idle. Idling was the greatest pleasure in life, and he had followed someone super serious. Woo, this was life. Fatty was okay with that. On Earth, OMG Company was currently organizing the Mecha Appreciation event, with original architect Yi Zissou leading the team in a round of self-introduction. As an up-and-coming mecha company, OMG's rise was considered speedy. Of course, that they were able to break out of the solar system had been due to the Theta Star contract. Theta Star's current farming mecha were all provided by OMG. Frankly speaking, based on mecha capabilities alone, OMG's agriculture mecha were not too competitive, losing out to those of stronger countries. Furthermore, with a geographical advantage, they could offer even lower prices. But currently Theta Star had not entered the deal for the sake of the best business, they were doing so due to political reasons. OMG represented their choice of favor, the solar system. This had allowed the mom-and-pop store to enter the purview of some international buyer firms, who only then realized that the more influential Wind God and Storm Swordsman originated from this company. And although this company had switched to producing fighter mecha for only a few years, but they had already achieved such respectable results. An element of luck and considerable skill must have been involved. After all, mecha design required considerable creativity. Without question, in all eras of human development, the power of resources was formidable, but there would definitely be some newcomers who could break free of the control, trumping resources with their brains and the power of intelligence. Whether Yi Zissou or Yi Bingwen, they would not pass up on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to expand. OMG's ambitions were modest, and mainly aimed to break into the neighboring markets around the solar system. This was enough for them to handle for quite a while. After making the rounds on Theta, OMG's agricultural mecha had gained reputation as well. The demand had been steadily increasing recently. To the middlemen buyers, under conditions where capabilities were roughly equal, the mecha with a more recognizable brand sold better, and what the buyers demanded, they would not hesitate to stock their mecha either. OMG's latest release was 5 models of agricultural mecha. After promoting it for years, the group had also borrowed the latest trends and refined it accordingly, introducing a newer generation of the 5 generals of farming. Besides that, their main promotion was for the fighter mecha. Of course, good things like Wind God and Storm Swordsman did not need it. Wind God was already famous, although there was still room for Storm Swordsman's influence to grow. They had invited 2 experts to give a live demonstration of the mecha's capabilities as well. This was definitely targeted at professional military buyers. The entire affair was very grand. It had to be said that impressions and brand reputation was very important, as well as individual reputation. The event this time had not only attracted the main mecha buyers in the solar system, but also businessmen from other interstellar systems. Some had even come from afar smelling a business opportunity. For them to take an interest was testament to its influence. And this was in no small part thanks to Yi Zissou. Some might not know OMG, but this genius designer had just been awarded the Mecha God Design Prize by the authoritative magazines. Although Yi Zissou was not the most famous, but she was the youngest and prettiest. And she came from Earth, which lent her an air of mystery. Foreign media had swooned over her for the longest time. At present, Yi Zissou's brand name was greater than OMG's. Furthermore, those concerned were all mecha professionals. When they heard such a beauty giving a professional introduction, they could not help but be attracted. Of course, the combination of beauties and mecha always gave rise to even more attraction, and Yi Zissou's conditions were clear, which gave her persuasive power. After the promotional event, the business negotiations proceeded smoothly as well, going better than expected. Large quantities of orders had come in, especially for Wind God, which was already the iconic mecha of OMG. It was really a one-trick pony. A wide variety of mecha was unnecessary. High demand was everything. The solar system's official buyer had already given OMG a fixed order. The mecha market was divided into private purchases and official purchases. The latter was definitely harder to secure, and also a bigger order. A piece of the pie, that had been long hoarded by a few military companies, was now OMG's to share as well. At the same time, Yi Bingwen's status in the political sphere rose as well, and the Yi family were definitely one of the nouveau riche in the solar system. And as the heir of the Yi family, the only daughter and also a famous designer, the still schooling Yi Zisou was definitely watched by many. This talent from the Aries College had invested in the Aries College to create her own mecha design college, and also a well-designed research place. She was already no mere student. As a result, For Him magazine had also listed Yi Zisou as first place among the most eligible girls. When Yi Zisou stood together with the cool Wind God mecha, any male who saw the poster was captivated. Her fanbase was fairly huge as well. In CT, Wind God's reputation was rising. In the solar system region, Wind God's selection rate was the highest. Of course, this included local feelings. As for Solon, this was easy. Once a new mecha entered the market, it was customary to get a babe or hunk to promote it. For Wind God, he simply had to flash Yi Zisou's picture and that was enough. She was better than just a pretty face. But until now, it seemed like Yi Zisou was still single. Regarding the company, Yi Bingwen was practically hands-off. His main energies were directed at politics, and Yi Zisou naturally had an experienced team around her. But after discussing numerous things, Yi Zisou felt like she was aching all over. Even then, she had to maintain her poise and smile. Her face was practically cramping, but it could not be helped. This was the price of living. If it were possible, she was unwilling to attend such events. She had no interest in becoming a star. But the team had said as well. If she did not make an appearance, they would not be able to secure orders. It was necessary. Yan Xiaoshu had gone to Tita Star to present Little Lucky Star's interstellar expansion plan. Thinking of him, Yi Zisou's spirits lifted. She wondered what Wang Zheng was doing now. As for Wang Zheng, Yi Zisou knew that Elite Academy X was undeniably a bigger stage, well suited to Wang Zheng, who loved battles. In his bones, he did not like loneliness. It was just that they were too far. Yi Zisou longed for the times before they had grown up. Then, they could see each other every day. Even when they had not been acquainted in middle school, she could sneak glimpses of him. Lost in her thoughts, Yi Zisou drifted off, and then fell asleep, although she was very tired, but her mouth was still upturned in a blissful smile, as if she had happy dreams. Compared with the undercurrent struggles of the Zon grade, the Huang grade students treated it more like a festival. Although the results were clearly less important, but participation was crucial. Showing one's face was necessary. A few people from Earthworm were participating as well. The crowd surrounded Majjal. This guy was an old man in the elite college. Recently, Majjal and Leah's relationship had been progressing suddenly, and everybody was congratulatory. Actually, nothing much will come out of our participation. In my experience, the school is well aware of this. They probably just want to see the guts of us Huang grade students. If we don't even have the courage to sign up, then the school will not deem us worthy either. Majjal said. At least they would give their mentors a good impression. Whether they could go far was a different matter. Majjal, what kind of experts are there in the Zon grade? Give everybody an introduction. Ison was bursting with impatience. As the support type, they did not need to enter the battle, but as spectators they were even more interested in the overall proceedings. But anybody who can enter the top 3 classes of the Zon grade are nothing to be trifled with. Their experience and skills are all well practiced. The chances of an upset in the Zon grade are not high, unlike us in the Huang grade. The top 3 classes in the Huang grade does not equate to an unequivocal advantage, but in the Zon grade, the ability of the first 3 classes cannot be surpassed. Majjal said, looking at Wang Zheng and Ali. The battle power of these two was definitely enough to enter Huang Class 1. School-wise, Huang grade is about learning and self-discovery, although there's a gap, but it's not clear. But after a few years of study and entering the Zon grade, Things like surprise attacks, unless one held back, would not be possible. I heard that there's somebody called Tempest from Zone 1, he seems good, Wang Jung said. Majgul's face changed. He's here? Zhang Shan smirked. Majgul, don't bring people up to the point of putting yourself down. This Tempest, isn't he a Zon grade guy as well? Is he that good? Majgul was exasperated. Good? He could beat us all with just one hand. He's the top 4 in our academy's Zon grade, nicknamed the Azure Dragon Dominator. D*MN must he really be so arrogant, Dominator? I'm not exaggerating, that's what he's called. Tempest's ability is rumored to be creation, but to what extent he can materialize creations is unknown. But what we know is that the 4 of them are already starting to carry out missions. They're different from us. Professionally speaking, they had already made their debut, while they were still studying. Besides him, what kind of abilities do the other 3 have? Wang Jung asked. Creation, part of the copy abilities or something? It felt rather exaggerated, but in the end the clincher was the practical control. But seeing as it was him, it would not be anything weak. The more variations an ability had, the harder it was to control. But once mastered, these variations would be hard to predict. The cycle of the 5 minor elements ability X were easy to shape into killing blows but were limited in application. Thus their variations were too little, and were not like the specialized abilities which could achieve unimaginable results. As luck would have it, Wang Jung was of that sort. Whether it was ice, fire, or wind, they were all basic powers. No matter how you played around, they could not change much. The Black Tortoise region, Hu Kan, the first in Black Tortoise. He's known for having an invulnerable body of gold. His ability X allows him to merge with physical materia, to become an impenetrable defense. No matter what type the attack, he can stop it. In terms of mecha usage, he's by far the first in the academy. That guy wouldn't be the descendant of the tortoise god, would he? And special powers as well? Zhang Shan asked curiously, has nobody ever broken it? Of course not, otherwise he would not be qualified to be called one of the top 4 experts. The 4 of them have never lost a public match before, and these 2 are the weaker ones among the top 4, Majgul said. They were stunned. D*MN, they had already been praised so much, and were still weak. Then how were they to take on the strong ones? Vermilion Bird Region's number 1, Hakatalan, nicknamed Vermilion Bird's King. Aslan Empire's super strong member, and I think he possesses the fire and wood affinities out of the 5. His ability is not particularly niche, but his mastery of these abilities have already reached unimaginable levels. Inferno, isn't that pretty common? Can one become a pro like that? Majgul smiled. I don't really know, honestly, I've just heard the fables as well. The 4 of them very seldom appear at the college, let alone fight. Vermilion Bird region is always full of pros, and the big empires are always fighting intensely. If a rumor isn't true, then the person spreading them will be quashed soon enough. Since it's spread so far, then there's no doubt. Wang Jung nodded. Ability X each have their strengths. It doesn't mean that specialized powers are always better. Much depends on the usage and one's mastery. Wang Jung is right. The most terrifying out of the top 4 is White Tiger region's Martsu Van Hydra. An arbiter. As he said this, everyone immediately looked towards Ollie. As an arbiter, Ollie could not possibly not know him. Arbiter's leader, nicknamed Despot. His ability is unknown, but whoever faces him is doomed. His fighting style is cruel. Ollie, you can't not know him. Both of your names have a Van in it. Zhang Shan asked, although he had no clear idea of Arbiter's naming system. Ollie nodded. Martsu is Olivia's elder brother. Immediately everyone froze. What kind of crazy family was this? It almost seemed like they should just concentrate at the zoo. By blood? Ollie nodded. Brother by blood. Martsu is older than Olivia's by 4 years. Zhang Shan looked at Wang Jung. It looked like Wang Jung would have his hands full. Meeting the little one had been enough of a headache. To think there was a bigger one. What about his abilities? Seems like not many know. Martsu is the space despot's successor and protege. Given his standards, it would be rare for him to use his ability X against humans. Ollie said. Successor. Kiki, this is too vague. Ollie, how far are you from Martsu in terms of skill? Zhongshan asked a more practical question. Ollie was a little ashamed. I'm dumb, just a beginner. Martsu and Olivius are much better than me. There's no basis for comparison. Everyone had seen what Ollie was capable of, and this made them even more fearful. Was Olivia's brother going to rule the elite academy? Mijgul's introduction had killed off the competitive spirit and dreams of everyone. Against such opponents, there was simply no hope. I just got good news for us. I heard from the Zon grade side that these 4 are seeded candidates, and will be separated, Ison said. D*MN, there are only 5 prizes. They have already occupied 4. There's just 1 left, and there's still countless Zon grade pros, and Olivius and Wang Jung to go up against. I'm screwed. Zhongshan was exasperated. He had wanted to try his luck, but it seemed like it was really going to be just a joyride now. Ah, are you still dreaming, deep down? They looked curiously at Zhongshan. Zhongshan shrugged. We all have to dream a little to be happy. Perhaps heaven will drop a meat pie straight on my head. Wang Jung was happy hearing this. He had not had this feeling for a while now. His ability X needed to be completed, if not he would not pass at all. Such a sense of risk felt refreshing. Seeing the gleam in Wang Jung's eyes, Zhongshan knew he was the classic rise to the occasion kind. However, he was a little dispirited after hearing the news. He had thought his sudden awakening would be displayed well, but who would have known he would be shut down so hard? But Zhongshan was not too despairing. His goal was to learn and present himself, not to compete against monsters. The school would not change the class schedule for such activities. Most people were distracted in class, especially logic classes. But Wang Jung was still listening with great gusto. Actually, in the college, logic was the most important one. Perhaps it was not immediately digestible, but in the days to come, there would be ample time and opportunity to deal with them. This was the greatest treasure. To some, the old mentor's classes were not compulsory, and they had started to play truant. It was just some overblown treatises and historical stories. Those still present were perhaps just whiling away the time. Wang Jung was listening to them with great interest. They were even more intriguing than the physical education classes conducted by Li Poshan. The explanation of the 5 affinities was nothing new to Wang Jung. More important was the usage of ability X. An old mentor was always going on about the source of strength and its nature. What people were, what power was, the meaning of life. Such questions held no interest for the impetuous youngsters, but old mentor's goal was not to arouse their interest now. It was simply to leave an impression. That would be sufficient. The mecha competition was a more realistic thing. Once it came about, it immediately captured everyone's attention. Old mentor had not felt anything in particular as well, even giving everyone more time to prepare. The school took this competition fairly seriously as well. It was not just the Milky Way colleges that were coming, and the school wanted to evaluate the standard of this cohort as well. Such a chance was rare to come by. After class entered, everyone shot out like an arrow from a bow. The training grounds had never been more popular, and people were starting to fight for spots. At the same time, they had to train the mecha they were good at, and maintain their condition in preparation for the big battle. Wang Jung stayed till the last. He had many questions that he wanted to ask old mentor, who had noticed him as well. He smiled. Questions? Teacher, I have a few. Wang Jung said. There were only the 2 of them left. Oh, speak. Old mentor put down his book. His generation loved the old days, and preferred to write things out by hand rather than use the Skylink to record things. It's about the powers we use. There are 3 main schools of thought, as you mentioned. The mark of life, the major and minor 5 cycles, and the school of mental dominion. But they conflict with each other. How do we reconcile them? Wang Jung asked. This question had been endlessly debated. Wang Jung wanted at least some resolution, but he felt that each school of thought sounded perfectly reasonable. Old mentor smiled. The major and minor 5 cycles and the mental dominion school actually originate from humanity's 2 models of evolution. Physical evolution and mental evolution. In the end, the debate never stops on which is more suitable. But in truth, humanity is only suited for a complementary evolution, which means a simultaneous development of both physical and mental faculties. Otherwise, it will only lead to ruin. Then, you mean that the Atlanteans' evolution has its flaws? Old mentor nodded. I'm afraid that the Atlanteans had realized this point from a long time ago. They are strengthening their bodies through all kinds of methods as well, to complement their mental development. They can even slow the speed of their mental growth. Extremes lead to ruin. Wang Zheng followed. Old mentor smiled. Perhaps ruin. Perhaps divinity. Who knows? At present, there are two beliefs in the human world. One type thinks the body as dominant, with the mental as the support. The other thinks the mind dominant, with the body as the support. They use one to trigger an improvement in the other. For example, Arbiter's Space Despot is an excellent example of the former, while the latter is accepted by many Ability X users. You mean that an impetus method is better than a simultaneous method? Not necessarily. What's suitable depends on the individual. At the same time, the key lies in the method. There's no universal way. The types of thought I spoke of is just a notion. One should not be obsessed with it in training. That would be a disaster. Old mentor laughed. Theories that were too abstract were not suited for this level of students. Wang Zheng nodded. He wholeheartedly approved of old mentor's words. As he reasoned, it seemed to get more understandable, only that his ability level was insufficient to apply it. Teacher, I met with a difficult problem when training. In the Saint world, there's a training called Atomic Burst. Theoretically speaking, it can be explained by the mark of life, but in actual application, it's very difficult. Wang Zheng had spent many an hour working on the Atomic Burst skill, but the results had been less than ideal. It only looked flashy, which was useless to him. There were many ways to look cool, but the Atomic Burst was very dangerous, but an understanding of Atomic Burst seemed too good to pass up on. Wang Zheng believed that this was a theoretical gap he had, which meant that his knowledge was completely inadequate. As for the world of saints, the college teachers could not possibly not know about it. Li Poshan even held it in high regard. He felt that the world of saints could be treated as an art, originating from life, but higher than life. The enlightenment inside could influence reality. Old mentor was taken aback. You did that training? Yes, I found it very meaningful. According to the existential compound material concept of the mark of life, then any material has a gathering point, which is the material's atom. This is the strongest part of the material, but also the weakest. If it could be found, and then energy poured into it, then a disintegrating effect could be produced. Wang Zheng felt that this was reasonable. He always had held an interest towards huge forces. Old mentor was exasperated. Your ability X is only C rank, isn't it? Wang Zheng nodded. Then don't think about such iffy things. Focus on your foundations. To you, the 5 cycles school or the mental school are more suitable. The mark of life theory is only for you to gain an impression of. If you become obsessed with it, it will be counterproductive to your studies. You still need to improve more, step by step. Don't try to jump the gun. Learning to fly before you can walk is impossible. Old mentor encouraged the bit off more than he could chew, student Wang Zheng, who could only nod. Heaving his book, old mentor left. It looks like the teacher did not like students who sought shortcuts. But to Wang Zheng, the more old mentor talked this way, the more interested he became. He was just a tad disappointed. He had thought the teacher would give him some pointers, but it had become a lecture. With his ability, was this learning to walk before he could fly? Suddenly Wang Zheng was stunned. From a different angle, it was. He suddenly came to a realization. All the while, he had always pushed directly to further his understanding of atomic burst, desperately trying to look for that singular point. But on careful consideration, old mentor was not wrong. Looking down from the high view of the mark of life was not realistic, because he had not mastered that theory. Or rather, such a theory was an ivory tower. Useful for understanding, not useful for practical pursuits. Practically, he should still look for answers through mastering the 5 cycles school or the mental school for answers. This was learning the basics. Which meant to say that to find a substance's bursting point, then firstly it needed to be classified, from either the 5 cycles or mental angle. If it was a non-living thing, that would be easier, because only the 5 cycles angle was needed. If it was a living thing, then there were other factors. It needed to be considered from both perspectives at once. Given Wang Zheng's current circumstances and training objective, he only needed to consider non-living objects. For example, a stone. It belonged to the earth of the 5 affinities. Metal belonged to the gold affinity. Wang Jung thought as he walked, becoming completely immersed. It seemed like atomic burst also required mental energy, which needed to pervade the object. How could he not have thought of it earlier? As he thought, with a thonk, Wang Jung had ran headlong into a lamppost with a yell. This had shaken him up from his musings. Gold affinity. Wang Jung hugged the street lamp with both hands, channeling his primordial regression technique in all ways. Primordial regression technique was a balanced affinity art. All the while, he had only been able to make water, fire, wind respond, while the most common gold did not. There had always been no answer, but now? The fast channeling of the primordial regression technique made Wang Jung's body enter its strongest state. At the same time, his mental energy enveloped the lamppost. Wang Jung had a feeling that this was the key. Using the primordial regression technique to forge a path of communication with the object, and then using mental energy to analyze it, the nucleus could be found. But after a long while, there was still no reaction. He was clearly just a step away. Where lay the problem? Wang Jung hugged the street lamp, deep in thought. The primordial regression technique was flawless. Was his mental energy too weak? It seemed like it should not be a question of strength, but of his method. Method. Suddenly, Wang Jung hit upon the answer: blade techniques. The other half that he lacked, which old mentor had mentioned before. Both methods had to be mastered to completely realize the mark of life, otherwise one would forever float on the surface of power. A majority only pursued power, but neglected the basic nature. Yet, only mastery of the basic nature could not completely master the power, otherwise one was simply a user of the power, and not its dominator. The enlightened Wang Jung hugged the street lamp and fiercely kissed it a couple of times, to startled cries around him. Is this guy crazy? He's been rubbing up against the street lamp for a long while, and then suddenly making out with it? Mn, my eyes have been opened today. I know some have an object fetish, but would never dream of someone having one for street lamps. This is another world. It's rumored some primitive tribes worshipped sexual organs. The lamp post is thick and long. Wang Jung could not listen to this anymore. Mn, F*ck, that was disgusting. This was worse than his late jumping antics back in the day. He legged it out of there. From then on, Elite Academy X had a new legend, about a street lamp maniac. Titan Star had now become a haven for businessmen, explorers, and pioneers. With rich mineral resources and beautiful scenery, it attracted countless people from all over the Milky Way. Amongst these, tourists also comprised a substantial portion. This was something unexpected. In just half a year, Titan Star had changed greatly. Titan Star had been compelled to throttle the flow, and such a move had instead incited popularity. Personal and group requests to enter Titan Star grew and grew. In comparison, businessmen seemed less noticeable, although in truth they were the main force. Under these circumstances, whoever could gain the Titan people's support could be absolved of failure. No matter how badly one performed, or years of drought and famine hit, bountiful harvests were guaranteed. As for the future, everybody knew that at Titan Star's current rate of construction, as long as they endured, the final sum would be a staggering figure, whether the fortune was made of their own hands, or by riding the rise of the market. Yan Xiaoshu had recently been so busy his forehead was steaming. Little Lucky Star's investment on Titan Star made him feel a little embarrassed. The amount on the bill, compared to other companies which had received Titan's official support, was the difference between a cat and a mouse. He sighed. These huge financial magnates that spanned stellar systems were ferocious, like sharks that ate small and big fishes alike. Yet, being small had its advantages, like being agile and adaptable. Besides, they had invested in daily products, and held hopes of becoming an interstellar shark one day. Most crucially was that the brand would become big and strong on Titan. Titan Star had already become Little Lucky Star's main battlefield. The Earth market had long been saturated. The suppliers' customers had become set in their habits. As long as they continued to invent and maintain their edge, they could hold on to their territory. It was not that they did not want to expand, but the competition was about the same as well, and stealing another territory was no easy matter. The entire industry's rules were fairly conservative as well, in order to avoid needless price wars. Expansion was of paramount importance, and the place where Little Lucky Star began made its competitors' collective jaw drop. This Tita Star trip had also become a life and death battle for Little Lucky Star. Little Lucky Star's elites, the Yan father and son representatives, turned out in full force. After a week, the Yan Xiaoshu father and son team had arrived on Titan Star. Alighting from the spaceship, they were taken aback by the vast airport. In comparison to Earth's airport, which had not changed much in 50 years, Titan Star's modern airport was built with techniques and specifications that were the most cutting-edge in spaceport technology. The part that had already been constructed and was in use could already be regarded as the most developed airport in Aslan. It stretched further than the eye could see, and still much was in construction. The design aimed to be the #1 port in the Milky Way. The well-arranged environment caused Old Yan to let out a sigh of relief. This had been an intense battlefield just not long before. Although he knew that peace had been established, but his impression was not so easily changed, and he had still privately worried. He had always done business only on Earth. Once outside, if anything happened, he had no one to turn to, and he had not known if Wang Zheng's connections were dependable. Yan Xiaoshu looked quizzically around. This was the place where Wang Zheng had labored. Along the way, they saw other tourists. After just 100 meters, they saw a few personnel related to large financial magnates. The accompanying members from the Little Lucky Star group were staring about curiously as well. Besides the refreshing feel of a new environment, they felt a deep sense of anxiety. Many were leaving the solar system for the first time, and for some, their first time away from Earth. Although they were slightly overwhelmed, but there was a point to agree on. Among all the investors on Titan Star, Little Lucky Star's entourage was the smallest. Including the 2 bodyguards, they were merely 8, although they each pulled their weight. Departure. Destination, Ivy Hotel. Yan Xiaoshu immediately calmed the mood of his group. There was no need to compare with others. Ivy Hotel, a 6-star hotel, and the most luxurious on the Titan Star. It was still refurbishing towards the 7-star accolade. Rome was not built in a day, and the Milky Way hotel star rating was the same. In truth, their service and facilities had already reached the 7-star standard. The only question was that this hotel did not accept reservations from outside Titan Star. This could not be helped. At present, Titan Star laid a heavy hand on business groups. Some business groups had reserved a room, and were stopped at customs, barred from entry. While the room had already been prepared and waiting, it had been an embarrassment. There was no choice but to bar foreign reservations, to keep the rooms for people who would use them. Little Lucky Star arrived excitedly at the hotel. A 6-star hotel, and 7-star service. Besides old Father Yan, the rest would be enjoying such things for the first time. Normal business trips would peak at 5 stars. On Earth, such displays were unnecessary to prove one's ability, but now they were outside, and when one was unknown, where one stayed, what one ate and dressed in all played a part in the impression of one's company power. Since they were here, they would stay at the best. And the Ivy Hotel was indeed worth the stay. On arrival, the Little Lucky Star entourage was mesmerized by the huge hotel looming before them. It was towering and majestic, in the Titan style. The main entrance was like the magnified version of an old Roman church, but with a huge stone statue of the Tita people's totem. It had an exotic flavor to it. What was even more spectacular was the main door, which stood over 10 meters high. One could almost drive a mecha in. Clearly, this had been designed with the Titans in mind. Even if they would not come, such facilities were necessary. Yan Xiaoshu and his team were excited, and even old Yan gave a smile, pleased with the place. Happily making their way into the splendor raised their spirits, and the ushers were warm. Welcome to the Ivy Hotel. Reaching the front desk of the hotel, the reception girls were passionate, with their dainty pale faces and sweet smiles. Welcome, is there anything I can help you with? Everything went well, until it was time to register. The reception girl had a troubled expression. Sir, I am sorry, because the room demand has been high. According to your status, the hotel can only offer you 1 apartment and 1 standard room. Would you still wish to continue with your stay? Yan Xiaoshu was shocked. They had 8, and 2 were girls. With just one apartment and one standard room, how could they fit? What standard is this? It's our first time here, Yan Xiaoshu asked. The reception patiently explained. Each company in the Milky Way hotel register has a status, but your company has had little in this regard, and has yet to enter the register. Therefore, we can only offer you the minimum quota. My deepest apologies. Is there some way you could check again? Perhaps some have let their rooms. Old Yan had come over with a wide smile. He knew that opening with a smile could do no harm. Old Yan, of course, knew about this ranking, which was divided from 1-star to 7-star customers, just as the hotels themselves were. The higher the star rating of the company, the better service they would get anywhere, especially the big customers. Little lucky star. What a laugh, their meager custom was not even enough to participate. Sir, my deepest apologies. You know our situation on Tita Star. To external guests, we can only follow the Milky Way register. I see your party is not small. Perhaps you could consider another hotel. Their facilities and service are equally excellent. The front desk staff spoke professionally and nicely, leaving Old Yan with nothing to say. Perhaps this was why this hotel had the best reputation. Just then, about 10 people walked in the main door, directly marching up to the hotel front desk. We are from the Tadinger Group. This is our Vice Chairman Jasper. A sylph-like secretary cut across Yan Xiaoshu and company, placing a card on the front desk. Her skin was perfect, and she was maybe 20 years of age. She wore gold wire full-frame spectacles, clearly an ornament, but it made her look especially professional. Yet for some reason Yan Xiaoshu felt an attraction exuding from her. But seeing that Vice Chairman Jasper behind, Yan Xiaoshu understood. When there was work, the secretary would do. When there was no work, do the secretary. Life was good. Immediately, all the front desk staff stood up. This was a high-class card, not just any ordinary cash card. A black card, with a unique edge. This was a 6-star customer, and known within the entire Milky Way. A front desk was nothing but charm. Humble greetings, esteemed Mr. Jasper, sir. A warm welcome to our Ivy Hotel. May I inquire as to your room requirements? Let me see what rooms you have. Jasper mildly replied, casting a glance at Yan Xiaoshu, who was in his way. From the side, Old Yan pulled Yan Xiaoshu back. Although Yan Xiaoshu was a little miffed, but he was still a businessman, and he understood how big clients were treated. All right, please wait a moment, the front desk respectfully replied. In an instant, an electronic screen was placed in front of the female secretary. All presently available suites are here. Jasper gave the female secretary's butt a casual slap, and she scooted to make way for him. Chairman, look. There are a few presidential suites, with a great location and position to appreciate Tita Star's view. Each hotel's best rooms were definitely the presidential suites on the highest floor. Jasper was not yet 30, and he had come to Tita Star this time on the pretext of inspecting the construction process, although he was simply here for a good time. Are your best rooms all here? Why is there still one more floor above it? Is my status too low for that? Jasper asked. Once a client reached 5 stars and above, there was nothing held from them. 7-star clients only got better service. 5 stars and above were all huge financial groups that could not be given offense at any cost. The front desk girl was polite, replying with a smile. Mr. Jasper, that floor is specially set aside for the esteemed Governor Mu Sen, and reserved for special guests. It is not open to public, and no one has stayed in it yet. Please forgive us. Oh, give me a presidential suite, and make it the best location you have. A normal suite each for the rest. Although it was their first time here, but they knew the circumstances of Tita Star. The place was 80% special meetings for VIPs, and although the financial groups were strong, but they still did not have enough status. No problem. Please wait a moment. She kept her brilliant smile. This was a huge sum. A 6-star client was a 6-star client after all. Jasper hooked an arm around the female secretary's waist, with an unconcerned look. The high speed and horizon here is great, you'll love it in a while. Her face reddened, a little embarrassed by the public setting, but she was smart enough, changing the topic to those still clustered beside. These people are amusing. Non-star customers daring to set foot in here? Don't they know that those below 3 stars don't even stand a chance to stay here? Bumpkins entering the city always try to show off, Jasper said conceitedly. He had seen more than enough of their kind, wishing to show off their paltry wealth the moment they had 2 coins to rub together. But compared to the true aristocrats, they were honestly beggars. Jasper paid no attention to Yan Xiaoshu and the rest, and was unconcerned, but Yan Xiaoshu's face turned beet red. They had wanted to improve the reputation of Little Lucky Star a little, but now their dignity had taken a blow instead. At one side, old Yan held Yan Xiaoshu back. The hardest things were leaving safe ground, conducting business, and asking for favors. Little Lucky Star managed fine on Earth, but they were nothing here, especially faced with the Milky Way level financial groups, which Tadinger happened to be. Even old Yan, who only worked in the solar system, had heard of them. Forget it, 2 rooms is not enough. Let's find another place, old Yan said. Who would have thought that the moment they left the solar system, they would be reduced to nothing again? Although Yan Xiaoshu was resentful, but he was helpless as well. With one last belligerent stare at the female secretary's long legs, they packed their suitcases and left. Babe, where are they from? Jasper lightly tapped the counter, smiling towards the front desk staff. They were a company from Earth. Unfortunately, our hotel is currently in a busy period, so there's not enough to accommodate them. The front desk girl still maintained a professional stance. Jasper laughed. That fatty had been nothing but envious hatred. At his level, there was no need for such displays. He had lost the feel for it, but seeing that Fatty stumped had brought a little perverse pleasure. He had not seen such a pathetic showing in a while. At that same time, Canyon City District, the center of Canyon City, and also the political center of Titan Star. Lan Ling had an office here as well. She was now Titan's Milky Way Alliance Council representative. Each day, she had to deal with many things. Life was fulfilling, but fast-paced. Tired was tired, but seeing the systematic changes of Titan from day to day gave her the motivation to tackle these matters with renewed vigor each day. However, when going about her business today, she felt a little uneasy, almost as if she had forgotten some important matter. But no matter how hard she thought, she could not think of what it was. She had just met the Arbiter Ambassador to discuss the next season's profit distribution, and the other important thing was the negotiations with Manalasuo, but that was tomorrow. Thinking, suddenly Lan Ling's heart jolted. Earth, Wang Zheng's friend. Beep, she directly called the secretary outside. Luo Lin, did anybody from Earth's Little Lucky Star Company call? What time are they reaching? They arrived today, but I saw that council representative was immersed in negotiations with Arbiter, so I decided not to inform you there and then. Luo Lin said. Lan Ling was now a council member, and busy with many matters. Luo Lin was a member of her secretary pool. Call Sun Shin in. Yes, ma'am. Soon, Sun Shin entered. Miss, is something wrong? Lan Ling had always delegated official matters to Luo Lin, but Sun Shin followed beside as a private personal assistant. Yan Xiaoshu has already reached Canyon City. Help me confirm their current location, and then arrange a car, have it leave immediately. On the way, check which hotel they went to. And tell Luo Lin she need not come in tomorrow. Lan Ling said. She hated that Luo Lin had not been cut from better cloth. Sun Shin nodded without further comment. She immediately opened her Skylink and arranged for the cars, then left. When she hung up, she was already in front of Luo Lin. You don't need to come in from tomorrow. What? Luo Lin was petrified. She had not known the implications of her error. Little Lucky Star Company from Earth. Nothing but a minuscule company. Lan Ling did not even meet the chairman of the financial magnates, and Little Lucky Star was not even close to that. That's all. Sun Shin coldly turned away. Lan Ling was going out, and she still had safety matters to attend to. She stopped after a few steps and turned her head, saying to Luo Lin. We've known each other for a while now. Here's some final advice. As a secretary, never presume to decide for your boss. Decide? Thinking hard, there was only the unbelievably insignificant matter of Little Lucky Star. Luo Lin froze on her chair. But, how could it? Jasper's party was still handling the arrangements. Jasper cast his eye about. It was said that the Tita people were strange. The men were split into giants and midgets. As for the female giants, he had no interest, but the Tita women were said to be petite. He would love to try one given the chance, but he did not know if there were any here. At this moment, old Yan had already left the main hall, Yan Xiaoshu in tow. They did have quite a lot of luggage. This time, Yan Xiaoshu had even brought presents for Lan Ling. After all, she was Wang Zheng's friend. The matter of Little Lucky Star had been thanks to Lan Ling for the most part. He had initially intended to give her a call after they had settled in, but it looked like it was about to be delayed. The moment they left, the hotel's elevator dinged. A bunch of hotel staff rushed out, almost bowling over Jasper and his company. The fat hotel manager ran faster than anybody, shocking the hotel staff in the main atrium. What was the matter? As he ran, the hotel manager had his Skylink open. Yes, boss, I'll get on it immediately. On the other end of the Skylink was Ivy Hotel Group's overall in charge on Titan Star. That's good. If they refuse to stay, then you're fired. With a beep, the Skylink was cut. It was enough to make the manager run. After slogging it out for more than a decade, and offending many rivals, and even friends, he had made it to managerial status with much difficulty. He would definitely not let everything go to ruins simply for failing to receive a guest. Pa, the rotund figure directly slammed into the front desk. The few front desk ladies paled in shock. They were utterly confused as to what was going on. Huff, have there been Earthlings here before? Mickey asked roughly. Earth? The girl in charge of receiving Yan Xiaosu's party earlier was slightly surprised. Manager, they just... Hearing that they were received, Mickey let out a sigh of relief. Already here. Phew, that's great. Which room are they in? Change their rooms for them. The uppermost governor's floor was prepared for them. Thank God, my luck is not bad. A few of the front counter faces paled. Governor floor? For these few people? Even the honored guests from Arbiter were not qualified to stay there? Seeing a strange mood in the air, Mickey paused, staring over. Manager, they did not stay here, they already left. Already, left? Rumble. Like a bolt of thunder, Mickey's world darkened. Where did they go, and when? Just about a minute, the front desk's words were still hanging in the air, and Mickey had already grabbed her and rushed out. A minute. He could still make it if his luck was good. In an instant, the entire hotel was galvanized. The highest level personnel had arrived on Tita Star, and the hotel was abuzz. Many of the guests were surprised. They had known that the governor reserved floor was not in fact for Mu Sen, but had been prepared by the governor for Tita's most revered guests. But since its opening, nobody had stayed there. Arbiter, Manalasuo, and even the Milky Way Alliance's council members had come, but none had stayed there. And now someone with the right to stay had come. Did you see them? The front desk girl was almost in tears. She cast about. As expected, those chosen to work the front service line had an eye for people. In a thrice, she spotted Yan Xiaosu's entourage at the rental car side, their luggage being packed by a few rental car drivers. There, Mickey rushed over at top speed. A whole crowd of people hurriedly followed. Yan Xiaoshu was currently griping. What customer ranking, what big clients, Federation dollars were Federation dollars. It seemed like who spent money counted as well. Pa. It seemed like the world still cared too much about one's name. When Little Lucky Star grew big, he would return to stay. He would take a room and leave another empty, and he would find a female secretary. No, two. The company members and the two bodyguards from Earth had nothing but brave, bitter smiles. They had not felt too much. Leaving one's territory was like that. Besides, Little Lucky Star Company could not hope to compete with these huge financial groups. Old Yan patted his son's shoulder. It's fine. This is nothing. Cheer up. Not everything is a bed of roses. An issue like accommodation is no issue at all. If you talk about hardship, remember that time when I opened a small shop. Seeing he was about to reminisce again, a few workers listened with interest. To be in the same slump as the boss and to talk of hardships was an opportunity they would not have dreamed of. But Yan Xiaoshu just gave a patronizing smile. He had heard it so many times, it had made a nest in his ear already. All right, I know, so naggy. Just then, a gust of wind, a huge black shadow rushed over. His aggression was a little startling. DMN, and to be robbed to boot. Yan Xiaoshu instinctively jumped, but he was still angry deep down, and lashed out towards the person with an evil kick. "Owie!" the guy cried out, and Yan Xiaoshu's second kick was retracted halfway through. D*MN, that was a sissy. "Dear sirs, please do not leave. Ouch, that hurt. Dear esteemed guests, I am the manager of the Ivy Hotel, Mickey. I am very sorry, your rooms had already been arranged earlier. That front desk reception was new, and did not know of your august status. 1,000 apologies." The fat manager was also a champion. As he spelled verbal reparation, he executed a 90-degree bow. It was surprising how much he could quash his belly. Yan Xiaoshu was stunned. What was going on? There were rooms now? But he was still irritated. "We've already left. I have no interest in returning. We just inquired at another hotel, and they have many suites for us to choose from. Don't, please don't, all the mistakes up to now are ours. Please, give us a chance to turn over a new leaf, and be better people." Behind him, the entire staff lowered their heads. The fat manager's forehead was pouring with sweat. If this group left, he might as well pack. More importantly, offending the governor meant that the hotel might as well close down as well. Old Yan was more mature. He knew that business was not easy as well, and things had taken a strange turn. He held Yan Xiaoshu back. "Wait a minute, you said our rooms were prepared earlier. What is going on?" "Yes, the highest floor's special suites. The esteemed governor told us a few days ago, but the front desk did not recognize your august selves. Please, with your generosity, forgive us." Mickey was really frightened. The front desk was ashen as well. She would never have thought that these country bumpkins were actually the honored guests of the governor. Old Yan and Yan Xiaoshu exchanged glances. They had caught on. Yan Xiaoshu knew that Wang Zheng had great influence on Tita Star, but did not think it was to this degree. It was close to unbelievable. Given old Yan's many years of life experience, this was unimaginable. It was illogical. "That's enough. Xiaoshu, we cannot shame the governor, let's return." Old Yan smoothed things over, although he was also excited. For the governor herself to have prepared a room for them, let alone a top-floor suite, they would have happily stayed inside even if it was an underground basement. Yan Xiaoshu nodded. Honestly, the girl's attitude had not been bad. She had not sought to taunt or laugh at them. Rules were rules, and she had been powerless. "All right, we'll let it go this time. Your system is unreasonable, and needs improvement. Your staff's attitude was good, though. Don't put it on her." The manager immediately smiled ingratiatingly. Of course, we will definitely change in the future, no, immediately." At the side, the girl was the picture of gratefulness. She understood that one ugly word from Yan Xiaoshu would have finished her. She was filled with thanks, even reverence, which made Yan Xiaoshu feel really good about himself. Yan Xiaoshu was an easy person to satisfy. The group members were shocked. Since when did little Lucky Star become so formidable? Long live the boss. At this moment, the Ivy Hotel was in a commotion. The red carpet had been unrolled all the way to the door, and flanked by hotel staff on both sides, their uniforms crisp. In front, 8 ladies were waiting with fresh flowers and gifts to welcome them. This was the highest level of reception that the hotel could provide. The hotel staff were working themselves to the limit, and the guests were whispering as well. Such a setup, what kind of guests of honor were coming? Would it be Arbiter or Manalasuo? Jasper was just about to bring his secretary up and to bed, but seeing the rush, decided to stay in the atrium to see what guest was coming. And when they appeared on the red carpet, some color entered his pale face. Was he seeing things? The female secretary was bemused as well. Why are they back? Shut your mouth. Say nothing if you can't speak properly. Jasper pulled her back. The hotel would not make a mistake on things like this, which meant that their position, Jasper was not just a playboy. He was a businessman, and his eyes were going wild. Yan Xiaoshu's anger had abated. Since they were so sincere, he was not an unreasonable man. Walking into the atrium, the 8 ladies waiting moved to meet them. They gave a curtsy to Yan Xiaoshu, and each person was gifted with a bunch of fresh flowers, and their gift box was opened. When the object inside was revealed, There was a collective gasp of surprise from the onlookers. In the gift box was a brooch. With a light shake, the brooch floated of its own accord as though in space. Clearly, the brooch was made of supergravity energy ore. This was not a present from the hotel, but from the Theta Titan Star government. This is a supergravity brooch, the signature memento of the Theta people. The last time the Arbiter interview group came to Theta Titan Star for a courtesy call, they were only awarded 2. The worth of this object was immeasurable in money. It was a symbol of the Theta people's respect. What was going on? Who were these people? Jasper was speechless. The bunch of people who had left dejected just a while ago had now become guests so important. Wearing the brooch elevated them to have no better on Theta Star, and was definitely the highest form of reception. And besides, they were the first party to use the governor's specially reserved floor. The entire hotel was in a stir. Who were these saints? A group of people started forward to ask, but it was nothing special. The members' suitcases were emblazoned with Little Lucky Star's company logo, and this could be easily checked via Skylink. Little Lucky Star, daily products, main product, sanitary towels? Maybe they specially researched some customized daily products for the Theta Titans, and were acknowledged by Governor Mew Senator. F***ck off, who are you kidding? It's either a mistake, or they're here for some special purpose. Perhaps this is all just a cover. The discussion was fervent, and they had moved from unremarkable to the center of attention in just an instant. Just at that moment, a commotion came from the entrance. More than 10 hovercrafts flew in to stop in front of the hotel door. It was clear that they had blazed their way over. Who would it be? Can't they see that there's a recep? Some people were about to stop their advance, but the car door opened, and all were silenced. Council member Lan has arrived. Lan Ling, the young miss of the Lan family, and the governor of Lan Cow City, and also the owner of a third of Theta Titan Star. Following the daily developments of Theta Titan Star, the Lan family's position, whether amongst the Theta people or in the Milky Way Alliance, was becoming more and more important, even affecting the business world. Every facet of Theta Titan was inextricably connected to the Lan family. Here, without the Lan family's cooperation, no business activity could begin. In an instant, everybody froze, then curiosity began to get the better of them. What was Lan Ling doing here, and an unannounced visit to boot? Logically, when a person of her status went anywhere, she would be preceded by many others, who would organize various things, and take care of the security issue. But this time, such things were clearly absent, which meant that Lan Ling had directly come over. The question was why she had rushed over in a hurry, and why she had brought so many people with her. What was she intending to do? And then everybody watched as Lan Ling quickened her steps towards the Little Lucky Star Company people on the red carpet. And those who thought it was all a mistake were rendered speechless. You bad Yan Xiaoshu. How dare you not contact me when you arrived? You have no sincerity. Lan Ling berated him, then turned to old Yan with a smile. Uncle, nice to meet you. So sorry that we were supposed to receive you, but the secretary messed up the timing. Old Yan was completely flustered. Of course he knew who Lan Ling was, as a familiar face on the Skylink internet. A council member, the heir of the Lan family, and one of the owners of the Theta Titan Star. He had never thought to meet such a person, and now he was, uncle. Not at all, not at all. The esteemed council representative is busy. You are too kind. Old Yan had no idea how to respond. That brat had hidden so much from them. He had always said he had connections, but who would have thought it was to this extent? Jasper and his female secretary were completely dumbfounded. Lan Ling's aloofness and distance was famous, let alone financial groups, but she did not give face to even the Aslan Empire, who virtually could not be refused in the entire Milky Way. But they were actually swept out the door by Theta, and not even an ambassador was allowed in. Furthermore, Aslan residents were not allowed in. This was unheard of. Looking at Lan Ling, and then at the little drab fatty, he suddenly felt like the country bumpkin. I've already informed Elder Mew Senator he will come over after attending to matters. Lan Ling smiled. Wang Zheng had said that this unremarkable fatty in front of her eyes was practically his brother. Without saying anything else, Lan Ling and Mew Sen knew what it meant. There was utter confusion all around them, and Manager Mickey was passing out from relief and fear. He now knew that if they had left, he would not have been let off with a simple dismissal. He blankly watched as Lan Ling led Yan Xiaosu's party into the lift. Without doubt, Ivy Hotel was not going to have a quiet night. While others were training in their mecca, Wang Jung finished the necessary training for him to enter the Saint level. The training did not hold much use for Wang Jung, but more importantly, he could train the 32-point blade techniques. 32-point blade techniques gave Wang Jung a completely different feel. Normally, mastering a technique required prodigious amounts of time. From figuring it all out to accumulating experience, even a talented genius would take years. But the world of saints was different. The training difficulty here was vastly lowered. As Wang Jung saw it, this was also the best way to keep the techniques secret, allowing one to enjoy the power enabled by the cultivation technique, but not knowing that the most important process had been neglected. Although Wang Jung could not fully experience it, but he had the foundation of primordial regression technique. Through some small tricks, his gains were considerably more than average. 32-point blade techniques was regarded as not bad even in the saint level, but was less flashy compared to the more specialized arts. However, Wang Jung could feel that the blade techniques and his own primordial regression technique were responding in a marvelous fashion. A pity. If he could only obtain the specific process of this technique, he would have almost complete mastery of this technique, and apply it everywhere. Forcing it was not too much of a problem. But now all he could do was master the effects, which made Wang Jung feel as helpless as a cat scratching. With the support of the 32-point blade techniques, Wang Jung felt even more confident, and directly entered the disciple level. Atomic burst training. Others saw it as unimportant, but Wang Jung was intrigued by this move. He had always stood by his decision, and now that he was more prepared, there should be some new changes. Some had been looking forward to Charcoal's entry to the saint level rapidly, thinking that he was about to shake things up, but he had disappeared quietly without a sound. And Wang Jung, who was now immersed in grueling training, did indeed feel things were different. He was conducting repeated experiments. He had not mastered the atomic burst, but he had gained an unexpected reward: analysis. The first step of atomic burst was to analyze the target, down to its basic components. This was also the most difficult thing. Hugging the huge stone, Wang Jung activated his primordial regression technique. Nothing that existed could stray out of the 5 affinities. They were all fundamentally the same. Then, he used his mental energy to permeate it. This was a sublime feeling. The same stone now gave Wang Jung a completely different understanding, almost as if the stone was alive. Perhaps more accurate, it was. Everything in the entire universe was for the purpose of existence. Primordial regression technique was like a chopping board. The target a fish, and blade techniques was the knife. Begin dissection. The entire process was silent and unmoving. Wang Jung looked like he had fallen asleep hugging the rock. Snowli was also in the world of saints, looking for Wang Jung. She felt freer here. There were less limitations than the real world. Snowli had added Wang Jung as a friend, and opening the tracker, quickly located his position. He was actually in the disciple level. After Wang Jung had entered the saint level, Snowli had entered soon after. To her, it was no big issue. Many of the elite academy students were here just to enjoy the process. The different realms did not hold too much meaning for those of the elite academy. Perhaps others enjoyed it more because they were deprived of a chance like Elite Academy X. The brilliance of reality was not something that simulations could imitate. Snowli found Wang Jung's location. Disciple level, atomic burst training. Disciple level training was undoubtedly the easiest, and therefore also the most meaningless. Given Wang Jung's ability, why would he be here? Strange. But after she saw the contents of the training, she was swayed as well. How could such a thing possibly exist in this world?